Hello, Guardians. Welcome back to Tower Casuals, the Destiny podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Corey Deerigan. Alongside me, as always, is the master himself, Josh Finney.
I don't know where that was going.
I didn't either. I'm not going to lie. There wasn't anything really that happened this week to give me a chance to give you a nickname, Josh.
That's fair. That's fair.
The Santa himself, Josh Finney.
That's right. I bring nothing but Christmas cheer.
You are the most cheerful person I've ever met, Josh.
My incredibly sunny disposition. It's been a week, Corey. It's been a week. I've had 2 check engine lights in the last week.
Ooh,
2
that's
different
not
cars. Good. Yeah, it has not been very enjoyable for me.
Don't like that.
Neither of them are like big issues particularly, but they are both quite annoying.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Anything that has to do with a car is quite annoying, though. Let's be honest. Even a simple oil change.
I don't work on cars. I don't know anything about cars. I just know, hey, the check engine light came on. I'm gonna try to, take it in. So
it's fair. That's fair. Oh man, Josh, things are happening.
Things are indeed happening. Things are indeed happening. It's been a busy couple of weeks.
Yeah, it sure has. This week in particular was extra busy for me. So I will share that with you later. But man, you know what else is busy, Josh?
What else is busy, Corey?
The Destiny team trying to fix this dawning bug that apparently is bad. Like the mechanic just doesn't work.
What doesn't work? I haven't heard about any dawning bug.
The dawning bug? There's been stuff all over the place.
No, I haven't seen a single thing about this.
Oh, apparently the mechanic in the dawning event just doesn't work. Like 40% of the time.
Because I haven't seen that at all.
Yeah,
I saw people complain like, "Oh, I'm not getting ingredients as often as I used to," and I haven't really seen that. They were raining down when I was doing the what do you call it? When I was doing the dungeon yesterday.
Interesting. Paul Tassi wrote 2 articles on it in the last 2 days.
I don't read Paul Tassi, so.
Well, I guess that's fair. But yeah. Anyways. Oh man, Josh, it's this is the last episode of the year. The final shape, if you will.
Man, what a year it has been. We're gonna do a little bit of a year in review here.
Yeah.
Because there's not much to talk about tonight. The dawning is more like the yawning. It's more of the same. Big whoop. I'll go unlock the glaive and the memento at some point this week, I'm sure. But there really genuinely has been almost nothing. We'll talk about a few stats that are in here, as well as a few stats that I had sent to me by members of our community. But we'll tackle that in a little bit. Well, let's talk about some of the good, the bad, and the ugly, I guess, to kind of do like a Destiny year in review.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we'll go like kind of like a round robin.
Yeah, that sounds.
I'll kick us off. I think in terms of good stuff, the coil is the best activity they've ever done in a season. Just straight up. I know it's only like 2 weeks old, but it's the best seasonal activity they've ever done. I think really seasonal activities in general this year, like maybe weren't like incredible, but they've all clearly built off each other to get to the coil.
Mm-hmm.
We've really been building on like roguelike elements and whatnot to get here, and I really enjoy that. I think that's been a lot of fun. I think it's been a suitable challenge for those who want the challenge. And hey, if you don't want to do that, go do Riven's Lair. So that's always there as an option. That's one pathway as opposed to doing all 4. So I think that's been pretty cool. What's a positive for you, Corey?
I mean, I think this, like you said, the seasonal activities, but I would say the seasons in general this year have
really.
I think the seasons have been, especially This one and Season of the Witch have been really good for me.
I'm trying to
The first,
withhold.
I would say, the first season was not great, but the rest of them
No,
I
the
think are pretty
Defiant
good.
Defiance is pretty bad.
Yeah, but I would say the rest of them have been pretty good. Especially
Eh,
Season of the Witch was good. And
I think the story definitely has been good. I haven't really been the biggest fan. I wasn't the biggest fan of deep dive. I think deep dives are cool with the
Josh, we got
mechanic.
fishing.
Fishing was fun for a day and a half. Um, Again, just overall not the biggest fan. Um, I think Witch has been good. You're on the money there. I think I was just so exhausted, and that's a personal thing. I think I was so exhausted by that point that I just didn't really want to acknowledge that it had been a good season.
Plus, like
Um,
everything that has happened within the last 2 or 3
well, yeah,
months,
I mean,
Bungie,
I think
right? Like,
the story was never in doubt, in my opinion.
yeah,
Um, I
I,
think the
I,
story has been pretty solid overall.
yeah, I'm saying like maybe like sometimes the things that are happening at the studio overshadow the game sometimes, and it's not been a great couple months for Bungie in general between like the HR stuff we talked about earlier this year, and obviously the layoffs, and now the Sony stuff that's kind of coming out. Like,
Yeah,
it's been a pretty negative year for the company, but I try my best to separate the company from the game sometimes.
and I mean
And
that's kind of what we have to do. I think you hit the nail on the head. It's been a pretty rough couple of months for Bungie as a studio. I think really it's been a year. When we think about Bungie, I mean, it kind of started off with Lightfall, right? Like we've talked at length about the kind of mid reception to Lightfall. I think that's been something that didn't necessarily go underreported. I think it got overreported in a lot of ways. Um, it's definitely been a struggle to watch them try to bounce back from that initial pretty bad reception as far as like the story and the plot line went. It was like it's kind of the first time I think since Shadowkeep where we were like, where exactly are we going with this?
right,
Like Shadowkeep still felt like a pretty self-contained expansion, like the expansions usually are. Um, but having the pyramid ship really like, and I think it would have worked as a standalone story in a lot of ways, Eris and trauma and things like that. But the pyramid ship kind of like flips everything on its head, right? And
yeah,
then that kicks off like this storyline that ultimately leads to the pyramids showing up in arrivals and the planets disappearing, and then the Beyond Light happens, and the Witch Queen happens, and things like that. I think we kind of gotten used to like the seasonal stories can be a kind of like whatever. Like we'd had pretty strong seasonal storytelling, I would argue, overall since Arrivals. We'd forgotten like how rough an expansion can look for Destiny.
hmm
Um, in terms of the story. And I mean the story, like whatever. I think they walked a lot of that back with Veil Containment and with the Witnesses origin cutscene from Deep, which for me is like one of the highlights of the year, right?
yeah,
Um,
definitely,
but I think that the fact still remains that fans expect a premium product when they pay a premium price,
yeah.
and you should you should. We were critiqued it on this show. I think we were a little bit more favorable towards it than a lot of folks were.
Yeah.
And I saw this question pop up on Reddit earlier today, like, oh, should I see that Lightfall's on sale? Do I have to get Lightfall to enjoy Destiny? Should I get it? All I see are bad reviews, and it's like, well, yeah, you should still get it because I mean, I still think there's stuff worth playing in it.
hmm
I think Strand alone is worth the price of admission, personally.
Yeah.
Especially if you can get it for like half price. You can't beat that. I think it's the same argument I made with Beyond Light. I think Beyond Light was overall pretty disappointing, but Stasis was so good that it was like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's totally worth it just to get for Stasis. And I don't think that's like necessarily good for the game's long term health. I don't think it should be like an every other expansion is a must play experience.
Yeah.
Um, but or like every third expansion is kind of the cycle that we've gotten to. But at the same time, like expecting these to be good every single year is like expecting Call of Duty to be good every year. Like it's just not going to happen. It's
Yeah.
effectively an annualized franchise. Like think of like World of Warcraft trying to pump out an expansion every year.
Yeah.
That's why like we proposed on this show, like they should probably shift to like an 18-month release window for a release and support window for an expansion, or even like up to 2 years maybe.
Yeah, especially
And
if episodes like 3 episodes a year,
yeah,
if that kind of routine takes off and the episodes are good, right? Like
yeah.
you could probably go 2 years without an expansion and just rely on 6 episodes in between each expansion. Maybe.
I think it's harder to do with but with a console heavy game. I think like PC players are more conditioned to that, but even like you look at MMOs like ESO puts out a quality expansion every year. You know,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
put out a quality expansion. They do seasons. They do all this support. And yeah, granted, it took them a while to get into that mode, but like they had a rocky launch, but they've been pretty solid for like 6-7 years now.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy 14. Nobody has to tell us. Realm Reborn had to happen for Final Fantasy 14 to be worth playing.
Right.
And now it's rightfully so. It's probably the most celebrated MMO on the planet right now.
Yeah.
Um,
That'd be a pretty tough thing to argue against.
Destiny is in this weird place of like it wants to be an MMO, but it's a first person shooter, and I think that's what Bungie's kind of having to wrestle with too. And we've seen that identity crisis happen so much this year in particular, with the new build crafting system and basically modding 3.0 in game, which I think has worked and failed in various ways. I'm still not super in love with it.
Hmm.
But that's more of like a personal gripe that I have.
Yeah.
Just and I wish things were just like simpler in game. I'm not really digging the armor charge system like I did Charged with Light or like I did Elemental Wells. I think both of those systems were better. Um, and part of that's because I'm stuck in my ways. I mean, I had like 1,500 hours using those two setups, right?
Right.
It's always going to be a little bit hard to come to it. What I was ultimately surprised by is I got my Xbox year in review on Tuesday, I want to say.
Hmm.
Tuesday or Wednesday is when they sent those out. And I was just shocked that when I looked at mine that I had like 500 hours in Destiny this year.
Hmm.
And this is a year that I feel like I have played the least amount of Destiny that I have played since pre-opulence. I want to say like I would have to go back probably to 2018 to find a year that I played Destiny as little as I did this year. And
Hmm.
I mean, I still engaged with and finished all my season passes, did all the seasonal content. I've, you know, crafted so many of the raid weapons from both raids. I've gotten dozens of runs in on both. I've gotten dozens of runs in on Ghost of the Deep. I've gotten about a dozen runs on Ghost of the Deep. I've gotten not several. I've gotten 2 in on Warlord's Ruin so far. Hoping to do a few more over the break. But it's just like it's funny. I've gotten into this mode of like I want to play anything but Destiny, but nothing feels like Destiny, and
Yeah.
that's a good problem for Bungie to have, but it's also like an unenviable position I think for a developer to be in, because then you constantly have to be raising the bar and like making new magic, and it's like how do we do that? And it's even harder when your hands are being tied by management.
Yeah.
This is a different conversation I was having with some friends earlier. I'm going to be doing a Game of the Year stream in 2 weeks, and we were talking about Starfield and how Starfield's probably not on any of our lists, on any of our respective top 10 lists. And when you and I reviewed it, Corey, I gave it an 8.5.
Hmm.
And that's roughly in line with what its Metacritic is an 85. And I says, in a typical year, like that would probably be good. That would be good enough to be like probably like 7 or 8 on my list.
Hmm.
In a year like this, though, like that's enough for it to get bumped off in favor of something truly unique. And I think that's kind of how I feel about Destiny right now. Is like I like it. I still like how it feels, the abilities, the gunplay. Nothing feels like Destiny. I love the story. I'm just so tired of the seasonal model. I'm tired of feeling like I'm doing the same stuff over and over and over and over and over again. That's why MMOs have never stuck for me. I don't like doing the same shit for like years on end.
Hmm.
It's just not fun to me. That's why I think
Yeah.
Diablo was such a breath of fresh air. Like, even though some of those corridors, like, and some of those dungeons started all feel the same, the first time I went through them, they were fun.
Mm-hmm.
The World Tier dungeons were fun. I enjoyed the story. I put probably 100 hours into Diablo 4 this year. It's been harder and harder for me to come back to Destiny after playing games like that I've been enjoying with my friends. I mean, I play a lot of Fortnite. And I didn't play as much Fortnite this year. And then all of a sudden they come out with 3 brand new modes. And I'm like, well, shit, I guess I'm playing a lot of Fortnite over the break. 3 truly unique modes, too. Just as I was starting to wonder, is my interest in Fortnite waning? And then they come out with this. So
Mm-hmm.
I do think there are things that can still be done to improve the health of the game. But this is the 7-month season could not come at a worse time. That, I think, is like kind of like the underscore on all of this is, despite with all the layoffs, with the controversy at the top of the studio. There was an HR controversy earlier in the year that we covered on this show, and the kind of like lukewarm reception to Lightfall as a whole. A 7-month season is the last thing you want to come out and announce, along with a delay to early summer, which they've never released a game in June ever. Congratulations, you're launching between the major showcases. You're launching a week after Memorial Day. You're basically dropping your raid the weekend that folks traditionally do their, what was E3, rest in peace, conference weekend. So are you still going to drop it then? Or are you going to save it for another week? Or are you going to drop it at the end of that first week? Like, how are you going to do the dungeon? How are you going to, or the raid now? How are you going to do the raid now? How are you going to keep us engaged at the end game until that point? And like, well, we detailed what they're going to do, and it remains to be seen how effective that's going to be. I'm really hoping we come back from the break and we have some more information, but it's been one thing after another. And, we've seen Bungie in the past, bounce back and make some of their greatest work when it feels like their backs are up against the wall. And I can only hope that that's what the final shape is. Right now it feels like we're going to be limping there.
Yeah. I almost wonder if, the June release date is a fiscal quarter thing where somebody, probably Sony, said you need to get this out by here, or you are done with, your leadership is done, type thing.
I do think that's probably part of it, if we're being honest, because the delay of the final shape pushed it out of Sony's entire fiscal year. From what I gathered, it's basically it's pushing it out of their entire 2023-2024 fiscal outlook. So that's a little curious to me. I do think it allows them to have like a tee up. Okay, you got a couple months to build it up. We're not releasing anything between the end of March and the beginning of June. Nothing else is on the docket. You're gonna have like 2 months of runway there to just promote the hell out of it. That's when Into the Light is going to be starting, and then you're going to probably have a PlayStation Presents showcase that third week of May. So that'll give you one more chance to promote it. And man, you gotta hope you knock it out of the park there and convince some people to come get it. They've the Witch Queen got added to PlayStation Plus for users a little while back. They gave away Beyond Light as a PlayStation Plus thing earlier in the year.
Yeah.
You gotta wonder, like, at what point do they just add the old expansions to it? Like, okay, we're not making money. Like, let's put them on here, and maybe they call Microsoft up and say, "Hey, we want to make a deal."
Yeah.
I don't think that they'll ever do that, but like maybe you try and make a deal. Yeah, it's like just for console Game Pass. Like, we're not going to allow it on Windows because we still want people to buy on Steam. Them giving it away on the Epic Store kind of makes me think that something like that may be in the works. But I think that's the only way that you're really going to get people interested in the final lead up to the end of this saga is if you do that. And good luck. If you're Bungie, good luck right now. I do not want to be in Joe Blackburn's shoes right now because I have a really bad feeling that if they don't pull it off, I have a feeling he's the one who's getting the axe, not Pete Parsons or Jason Jones. And that's a really unfortunate place to be. He's in a pretty unenviable position. I was reading something from one of the devs who got laid off at the end of October, and they said like they've been sleeping like 12 hours a night since they got laid off because they're like, I'm not like crunching, I'm not overwhelmed with work and meetings and things like that. Like I'm actually sleeping consistently well. Like I'm feeling good for the first time in years. This is someone who had been there for like 5 or 6 years. So like just a little bit of insight to like what it's like working at Bungie. Like I think Liana tweeted out earlier today that like there were days where sometimes she had like 12 to 15 meetings in a single day.
Yeah,
And
I believe
that's
it.
fucking bonkers. Um I don't know.
Yeah.
It's there's so much stuff happening behind the scenes, and there's been so much that's happened in game that's gotten such a, I wouldn't even say like negative reception. I'd say like lukewarm. And then like it feels like we take one step forward and then two steps back. Like we had Joe's great response to the state of the game that was written. Yeah, he came out and gave us that impassioned video, talked about the PvP strike team, about map packs, about all these changes they were going to start making. And we were like, hey, maybe things are going to start working out. And then like a month and a half later, the other shoe drops and you've got people getting laid off in mass. 90 people get laid off at least. Jason Schreier is reporting that the final shape's delayed to June or was delayed indefinitely, not necessarily to June, but that it's delayed and that Marathon's pushed into 2025. And like Sony really can't step in and say you're done with Destiny right now because they don't know if Marathon is going to be profitable. Like at least Destiny for right now is profitable, but you're going to lose a lot of your bigger spenders probably once Final Shape is done. I have
Yeah.
not shied away from talking about how I feel about Final Shape as a whole. Like, I see that
Hmm.
kind of as like I'm viewing an off ramp essentially to keeping up with this on a weekly basis. Like, as soon as something drops, I'm covering it, I'm playing it so I can talk about it and I can break it down. Like, my time is coming to an end because I've had 10 years of it now. Like,
Yeah.
it is exhausting to keep up with.
Yeah.
No game is more exhausting to keep up with than Destiny is,
That's
in my personal opinion.
I mean, that's not wrong. I mean,
Yeah.
it's they say they want people to play other games, but then like every week, like especially for hardcore people, like you have to be in it. You have to be in it.
Yeah, and I think like this year also like this is something that A1 Johnny and I have talked about a lot over the years. Destiny largely was succeeding the last couple of years and could get away with like having a bad season or something or like a lackluster seasonal model because there really wasn't a ton of other stuff coming out. Like we would break off, play a game and then come right back. This year alone in terms of games that are 50 hours or more, you had Tears of the Kingdom. You had Pikmin 4. You had Remnant 2. You had Baldur's Gate 3. You had Diablo 4. You had Starfield. You had Phantom Liberty. You had New Super Mario Brothers Wonder. You had, and I know that's not like the same thing, right? You had a complete revamp to Fortnite. You had, you had new Call of Duty, Call of Duty, whatever, right? But like, I know I spent a lot of time in there over the last couple of months. You've had, Hogwarts Legacy. You've had Avatar. You've had 3 Persona games drop.
Mhm.
Um,
Star
you
Wars.
know, you had Jedi Survivor. I mean, like that comes in under 50, but you had Jedi Survivor. Look at all the high quality games you had this year, and that's not even counting indies or smaller games. And yeah, you get spread really thin. This is like on record. This may be the best year of games that we've ever had.
Hmm.
And yeah, it makes sense. Something like Destiny is going to get lost in the shuffle,
Hmm.
and like that doesn't mean that it's bad. It just means that you got to step your game up if you want to be competing. Like
Yeah.
I look back to, especially when I consider like 2020, and I think beginning of 2020 was a really dark time for the game. Dawn, the whole rewriting history thing about Dawn is hilarious because nobody praised Corridors of Time. Everybody sat there and bitched about it on Reddit. We have the receipts. Everybody was upset about that. Largely didn't enjoy the weapons, didn't enjoy the sundial, and didn't pay attention to the lore really. Like,
Yeah.
oh, we only got like 3 story missions, and then you have Worthy that follows that up, along with Trials being busted when it launches and a pandemic. And then all of a sudden, Arrivals happens, and Arrivals marks this turning point for this game that they just kind of go on this crazy run. Arrivals drops in June 2020. And I think between then and I would say Lightfall's launch, I don't know how many like must play games there really were. Like you have to drop everything to play this game.
Mm-hmm.
We were all coming out of an Animal Crossing craze when Arrivals drops. And I mean, like in terms of like FPSs, and multiplayer games, I'm really struggling to think. I mean, Fortnite had some incredible stuff. Zero Build definitely provided probably like the biggest draw, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
that was last year though. That was a 2022 thing.
Yeah.
God, it's been almost 2 years since Zero Build was introduced. That's wild. Um,
Well, I
you
mean,
had Call of Duty
now they have all that
Warzone,
stuff now too this year. That's like going to revitalize Fortnite as a platform in general. You know,
which
I
is
mean,
crazy because like Fortnite was never hurting for users, but
yeah,
now it's
yeah,
like it's breaking records every other day.
yeah. I
You
mean,
know,
that
because
rocket
there's
racing looks cool. You
Rocket
know,
Racing is it's fine for its first iteration. Festival is fine. Both of those are going to get better. Lego Fortnite feels like it could be its own game with a few more features.
yeah.
But like,
Did you see PDP by the way? Kind of tease Rock Band instruments or like reissued instruments
oh
that they're
yeah,
going to
they're not
release.
teasing it. There's already files in the game that are color coded for them.
Yeah,
Somebody found them in the files. Yeah, it's already there.
that's so crazy.
Epic confirmed like 2 days after Fortnite Festival came out, like, yeah, in 2024, we're going to push an update that allows you to use existing Rock Band and Guitar Hero controllers. So I'm really happy because I still have a Guitar Hero controller in my closet. I'm pumped. But like, it's things like that that are starting to suck the attention away. I look at the last couple of years and like, Battlefield 2042 was a flop. The Call of Duties of the last couple of years have not been good. Like, they really lucked out at every turn. There really wasn't a big MMO to draw people away, you know? And then
Hmm.
this year, all of a sudden, everything happens. Everything comes out at once this year. I mean, I left Final Fantasy 16 off that list. I left Spider-Man 2 off that list of like games that have sucked us away, right? Like,
Hmm.
it's impossible to play everything you want to play, to like consume all the media you want to. Like, I largely have stopped watching TV shows because I just don't have time.
Yeah,
I don't go to the movies as much because I don't have time. But I'm using that time I would have spent doing either of those things gaming. Because that's where I want to spend my like media time. And it's just so exhausting. Like, and I think for a lot of us trying to keep up with an ongoing game has just become exhausting.
yeah,
Like, and as much as I love Destiny, and like I keep saying it, like no game feels like Destiny, no game has the abilities and the gunplay. Something has to change going into 2024 to keep the player base here, and I don't know what it is anymore. We're not gonna really like dive into it because we've talked about it so much, and there's really nothing more we can say until we get the April showcase, which is going to show us more of the final shape, until we see what Into the Light is, and until we see what wishes, like those weekly progression quests, are going to be, which I'm not holding my breath on that one. If you are, congratulations. I'm personally have zero expectations for that one. All my hope is kind of being banked on Into the Light right now,
hmm,
which is happening in April, which is, I mean, we don't know what release dates really look like for the year yet, but it's going to be a busy year across the board. If you know anything about this industry, it's going to be a really busy year. So,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, January and February are already filling up at this
January and
point.
February are basically just like continuing this year.
Yeah.
I expect, March to start filling up, and, April. We've both said that we feel like Hellblade is coming in April.
Hmm.
Stalker 2 has to come out at some point still in those first couple months. And
Yeah.
I'm scared thinking about all the RPGs that are coming out in the back half of the year, like Avowed. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just like it. It's hard. It's hard to figure out how you're going to spend your time.
Yeah. It's going to be a man. I mean, I would say I feel bad for Destiny, but like this was going to happen at some point, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Especially with the release that they just released this year, right? I mean, Lightfall, we've talked
It just
enough
didn't do
about it.
it.
But
It didn't do
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
We talked enough about it. You can go through our Lightfall campaign review, or any of the annoyances we had during Season of Defiance. But
Yeah.
I think they were. That's kind of the Bungie story. Like, oh, we're rebounding. Destiny's rebounding, and then something happens either in or out of game that causes everything to crash.
Yep.
And come crashing back down to earth. So I don't know. I guess I just kind of like want to end this like kind of end of the year discussion on like a hopeful note for next year. I do hope that they really nail it with the final shape. I do think that, I think that it's finally dawning on them, no pun intended, that
Ah,
the final shape is the literal, we've said it so many times over 10 years, it's the literal make or break moment for the franchise, though. Like, is this franchise going to be able to continue, or is this going to be like the last moment of glory? You
yeah.
know,
I
that's
wonder.
kind of the point that you're at.
I mean, I wonder if the studio almost feels that way too. It's in some
Oh, I
at
would say
some
I
degree.
guarantee they feel that way.
You know, like, are they
It's
still
like, it's
excited?
impossible not to, I think.
Yeah, I mean, like, are they still excited to work on this after the final shape comes out? I mean, obviously, I think the final shape stuff is probably pretty much wrapped up, and they're just polishing. But uh, I wonder, I wonder what the quality dip or increase will be after the final shape, and those first couple episodes will be.
Yeah, I'm curious. I mean, like, for by all accounts, the people who are still there are there because they want to be there. I mean, at this point, if you're at Bungie, it's and you're not specifically on the marathon team, it's because you want to work on Destiny.
Right.
Like, you want to make this game, and that's still where the vast majority of the studio is at. It's just, we've talked about it before, but like, I don't think Bungie necessarily took the hit by leaving Activision, but losing Vicarious Visions and High Moon did way more damage than anything else has done in
Yeah.
terms of like the health of the game. We have a question that's gonna come up tonight that asks, would you rather have 3 raids or 6 dungeons? And it's funny that we even have to sit here and consider that, because once upon a time that didn't have to be a question.
Right.
The first 24 months of Destiny 2, you had 7 raids and 2 dungeons.
Yeah.
That's a wild statement to say.
7 raids.
Now, granted, 2 of those raids were raid layers, but you
Yeah,
had
but
five raids, two raid layers, 2 dungeons, because that counts, the first 3 releases of,
yeah,
Destiny 2, Curse of Osiris, Warmind, Forsaken, and all its seasons, and then base Shadowkeep.
yeah,
And then you look at the years since, and you're like, oh, wow. Like, we kind of had to fight to get 2 raids a year, and 3 of those have been reprised raids.
yeah,
And like, that's fine that you're bringing that into D2, because everybody likes that content. That content deserves to be played by everybody. But man, it is rough. I think things are in a pretty rough place, and I'm interested to see what the game plan is going to be here. So I'm going to kind of reserve judgment on the future until we see that showcase in April. And God, I just hope we get to April with our sanity intact right now.
yeah, yeah. I mean, to be fair, though, I think you and I at least will be distracted by other things that maybe we won't. Destiny won't drive us too crazy with how long the season is, obviously, but I don't know, man. It's going to be a tough one.
Yeah.
So
It is in fact going to be a tough one. So, Corey, what do you say that we talk about some slightly more positive things?
yeah, let's try to be a little bit positive. I feel like we've been a little downer on a few episodes recently, just by the nature of the news.
I think it's just the nature, unfortunately.
Yeah. So let's give a little plus here, Josh.
Yeah, let's jump in. There's not much in the final TWAB of the year. We're going to talk about this real quickly, though. There's some Fireteam Finder statistics here. Some of the stats, for example, the top 3 activities where we've seen groups form via Fireteam Finder. Dungeons, 43.3%. No surprise with a brand new dungeon being 2 weeks old.
Mm-hmm.
Raids, 26.5%. And this one caught me by surprise. Free roam, 21.1%.
Ooh, free roam.
Lost Sector completion rate by Fireteam Finder groups. Aphelios Rest, 84%. I don't know why you need a fire team to do that one, but okay. Bay of Drowned Wishes, 77%. Scavenger's Den, 73%. Skydock 4, 73%. And The Quarry, 70%. Those are really interesting. I'm curious to see why we are grouping up to go do Lost Sectors, but okay then.
I mean, if you're trying to get new people in and they're trying out the game for the first time,
I guess, but I mean, those are probably like a group of the easiest Lost Sectors in the game. It's not like we're trying to take him to do the Niamuna ones or something.
Yeah. Josh, I'm just trying to be nice, okay?
I'm not. I'm not. I said I was going to be positive. I lied.
This is
They
Josh's
have
positive.
they have an article in here about how much the Bungie Foundation has done this year. $3.2 million raised for charity this year, including $730,000 raised for the combined relief and recovery efforts in Turkey and Syria after the February earthquake, and in Maui when the August wildfires left the island in ruins. 47 wishes granted for Make-A-Wish, including a very special wish day for a Destiny superfan, Wyatt, at their corporate headquarters. And 3 new partner organizations onboarded into the Little Lights program, bringing our total of 14 across the globe. And there's a little video here from some of the voice actors, including Nola North is one that's in here. I don't know who else. The video just refused to load for me repeatedly. But yeah, so that's cool. They're going to be doing the Game to Give campaign again, the 5th anniversary from January 18th to February 4th. So that'll be kind of cool to see what's going to happen there. We have some final statistics for the year, Corey.
Hit me with them, Josh.
I found these to be really interesting. I think they're worthy of a little bit of discussion. We do have a question about these too, so I want to get to that question when we get here. The crafting. There were 2.8 million weapons crafted during the crafting, of which 559,000 were the Amit AR2 auto rifle. Our friend Joe Aces ran that with Volt Shot Incandescent. It was really funny to watch. Crota's End, 16.4 million attempts by 1.1 million Guardians, which equals out to 6.2 million clears by 690,000 Guardians. Root of Nightmares. Root of Nightmares blew my mind. 28.7 million attempts by 1.6 million Guardians, 14.8 million clears by 1.2 million. Warlord's Ruin. Keep in mind, this is 11 days old as of the time of this recording. Already up to 4.9 million attempts by 687,000 Guardians, 2 million clears by 528,000. So that's good. That's got a pretty good ratio of attempt to completion.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
And then Ghost of the Deep, 19.8 million attempts by 1.3 million Guardians, 8.4 million clears by 1.1 million Guardians. Our question about this tonight comes to us from Ronnie, and I want to make sure that I get to this. Do you guys personally think this is a balance that they have achieved, with the stats showing more than half more attempting versus half clearing? Have they found just the right method or balance of difficulty, no matter what the echo chamber super fans say?
I mean, I feel like this is something they've been working on for a long time, right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, this is definitely better than the stats that they were giving out for Destiny 1, right? Where, like, those stats were just atrocious, of attempts versus clears versus how many active players there were, right? So I think their balance is definitely getting way better. I think they've struck a good balance with dungeons in particular, just because I think it's easier to wrangle 2 friends than 5 friends, right? But I don't know. These numbers seem pretty positive for me. I mean, you could always do better, and obviously they're always going to balance and tweak and change and do all these things. But overall, I feel like these numbers are pretty good, except for the fact that, like, the amount of Guardians playing seems kind of low. But maybe that's just me.
So I would say this. First off, the end game has always been pretty low, I would say. I think that having over 1 million Guardians attempting / clearing raids and dungeons is a really healthy number for the player base that has fluctuated wildly this year. I do think they finally have struck the difficulty gold mine, though, because when you look at, we all said, oh, Ron was too easy, and
that was really easy.
It is a very easy raid, to be completely fair. But you look at Ghosts of the Deep. I think Ghosts of the Deep had the right amount of challenge. I think that Crota had the right amount of challenge, especially on week one. I think that was great compared to Root of Nightmares. You look at how many teams really struggled to get Crota done. It was the lowest weekend one completion since Garden of Salvation, I believe. That's
Yeah.
pretty good.
It's,
Considering this has been a complaint by the hardcore community since Deepstone Crypt. I thought that was pretty impressive. And then Warlord's Ruin, really, really like that. That's off to a great start. I'm sure that those numbers are going to spike over the holidays.
yeah.
But I mean, that's showing that like even so, like 600,000 people have at least attempted the dungeon, and almost 600,000 have cleared it.
Yeah.
Those are pretty good numbers for the first 11 days.
Yeah. And also going back to Crota, right? I mean, I feel like maybe that was lower just because I mean Crota's been a joke until this year, right? I mean, that raid has always been the joke of Destiny, and I think they made it harder on purpose. And so maybe that skews the numbers a little bit, especially opening weekend.
I mean, opening weekend, it was a wild success. They had so many people trying it out opening weekend.
Yeah, no,
Um,
I mean like the clears and you know what I mean.
I
Like
guess
I feel like I just feel like Crota is in a way better spot now. I'm trying to put a positive
it
spin
is.
on this, right? Like
I know. I mean, I think Crota is absolutely a positive thing. Like you look at it, 690,000 unique Guardians have cleared that raid, and it's only been 4 months.
yeah,
Like I think that's pretty good. Root of
yeah,
Nightmares, by comparison, has been out for about 10 months and 1.2 million Guardians, and that's a much easier raid to me.
yeah,
I do find it interesting that almost the exact same amount of Guardians have had at least one clear on Ghosts of the Deep compared to Root of Nightmares. That's the interesting comparison for me. But I
yeah,
do think that like ultimately I think these numbers probably settle out in the 20 to 30 million range, for the typical activity.
yeah,
Um, but I do think that this shows that like people are coming back. They're coming back for loot. If they feel that the loot is good, they're going to keep coming back. Like Root of Nightmares has 28.7 million attempts and 14.8 million clears
hmm
because the loot was good. Say what you will about that raid, the loot was good. The loot is good
yeah,
in Crota. I
yeah,
don't really feel that way about these two dungeons as much,
hmm
but I think that's more of like, oh, I would love to see what the numbers were for Ghosts before Fire Team Finder.
yeah,
I don't think it got a huge spike. Just to be totally clear, I don't think it got a big spike. I'd also like to see like how many Crota attempts were put in after Fire Team Finder went live.
hmm
I think now with the addition of that tool in game, you're going to see these numbers only climb, and that's good. But that's also relying on like your hardcore rating fan base sticking with it. Like this, if you were to average this out, that means the average Guardian, it would be saying like, oh, the average Guardian's doing like 7 clears of Root of Nightmares.
yeah,
And we know that's not totally true. Like, I mean, my total clears probably like I probably got like over a dozen clears in it.
hmm
Um,
I
Ghost of the Deep. Ghost of the Deep, I think, is a little skewed though because we were all cheesing the final boss like the first weekend it came out.
oh yeah,
So I do think that like I would be interested if this is full attempts or if this is just like you loaded into it at any time and started. That would
yeah,
be my data point that I'd like to see, and I have no idea how you'd even report that.
yeah,
But I don't think that there's any danger. I think they have finally struck that balance. There's nothing wrong with
yeah,
having a somewhat easier activity because you look at this year, and I think there's been plenty of challenge. You've had the tier 3 deep dive or tier 7 or whatever they were deep dive. You
yeah,
have the coil. You've had Ghosts of the Deep. You've had Warlords. You have Warlords Ruin. You have Crota. You've had sufficient challenges this year. You have the Coil. You've had the Vexcalibur mission. You've had Wicked Implement. Like there have been challenges this year for you. If you desire that, they are there.
hmm
Like there has been challenge this year.
oh
And if
yeah,
you still don't think that there is, like, then that's one, that's probably a personal thing for you. And two, maybe this game just isn't for you anymore. And like I think that's a healthy thing to be able to admit. The problem is though, as we've seen time and time again, like we've said a million times tonight, there's no game that feels like Destiny.
yeah,
So how do you, and I think like, how do you reconcile that with like wanting more challenge? And I do think the answer is probably to give us more difficulty options.
Uh-huh.
But I do think that tease up like, well, you got to figure out how to do rewards for each of those to make them feel rewarding, but like make it feel to where like those who aren't killing themselves to do the top thing aren't getting screwed.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting balance. I'm curious to see how they're going to take this into episodes, because I think changing the seasonal model will change how they approach difficulty overall.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Yeah.
That kind of puts a bow on this final Schwab, Corey.
Yeah. I'm going to say something a little bit maybe controversial. Maybe not.
Hit me with your controversial thoughts, Corey.
I haven't really been paying a lot of attention to the Destiny community lately.
I haven't either.
To be honest.
I try not to.
But I actually think Fireteam Finder will probably maybe hinder people's experiences more than actually helping them and discouraging them from playing in-game activities like raids and dungeons. Now, granted, you're going to have those few, like back in the day on Halo 2 voice chat, you added a friend because you guys were playing together and, you know, you used to meet people online that way, right? But, like, this almost feels like with today's internet and people and how dumb everybody is, I almost feel like Fireteam Finder is going to be a hindrance to this game in some way. If you don't already know people.
Personally, I don't think so at all. We've been using out of game LFG for so long, and I've had bad experiences with those where it's like, oh, how do you even like figure out how to report people? Here you're like in with them, like you're in a group together. You can tag your posts, and like if somebody can't fucking read, then that's their own problem. But like you can set it up however you want. I do think it allows more options than a traditional LFG filter, like the one built into Xbox allows for. Everyone I've talked to who has used it has had almost nothing but positive experiences using Fireteam Finder versus just queuing normally and getting randomly assigned with someone. Like you are looking for someone in particular. Our friend Joasis said he did a coil run through Fireteam Finder and that he basically got carried, and Joe is one of the best players I know at this game.
Yeah.
So I think that's like, that kind of speaks to like what you can look for. Like I've gone and peeked through some of the listings, and there's a lot of people who are like willing to help teach and make sure that people understand how to do end game activities or to help them get coil completions for quests and things like that. I'm very curious to see how this looks when it launches fully. I think the only place where it's going to be particularly toxic and hinder growth is going to be like any game when you get into the PvP aspect of it. I think that Crucible and Gambit are going to be both really toxic.
Yeah, maybe I'm just too pessimistic in my old age there, Josh.
I think you are. I think that sounded really flippant, but I'm choosing to be on team positivity here. I was skeptical about how Fireteam Finder was going to look. I think it's looked great. I've talked to so many people that I did not think were going to enjoy it, and they've been like, yeah, I really, really dig what they're doing Fireteam Finder. And I think that's something that is going to be iterated on over time. It's just a shame that it's taken 10 years of using outside LFG sources to finally get this to work.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you the amount of times that I read people on Reddit or on Twitter saying like, I haven't been able to experience all that I paid for in Destiny because I don't have groups of friends to play with. And like, I'm apprehensive about doing LFGs and this and that. And like, I think that Fireteam Finder is a really good opportunity for those types of individuals to make a post, be like, hey, I want to do my first raid ever. You know, I'm really, kind of anxious. I just need someone who's going to be like really patient with me. And I think 9 out of 10 times you're going to get the right group. Well, so like, I don't think it's any worse than using an outside LFG source personally.
Well, that's good then. I just, I just think.
Well, that's good then.
Well, I just think of all these shitty ways of finding players, and it's just like not the experience you want, So.
I grew up in Call of Duty and Halo 2 lobbies.
Yeah.
On OG Xbox Live. I'm intimately familiar with the things that are said to folks.
Yeah. Well, that's all I have to say about that then.
Yeah.
I'll shut up now.
Good. Before we move on to questions, I want to talk about a non-Destiny topic with you real quick.
A non-Destiny topic?
A non-Destiny topic. It is the end of the year, Corey. it is gaming. It's gaming related. So I wanted to talk to you about this before we get to the end of the year. I'm putting you on the spot, Corey.
Oh boy.
I want to have some conversations about Game of the Year.
Ooh.
We've never shied away from talking about other games on this show. We've made it pretty clear that next year we're going to have to talk about some other stuff because there's no way that Destiny is going to sustain us until June.
It could surprise you.
We've had some requests to when I finally get to sit down and play through it. Hopefully, in the coming weeks, I've had so many setbacks, but hopefully here in the coming weeks, I'll be playing Baldur's Gate 3.
Baldur's Casuals.
We've had a request for Baldur's Casuals. We may just take the week off of doing Destiny stuff, and I may sit down with Johnny and just do like a 2-hour blowout on Baldur's Gate 3 when I get through it. With the year in gaming, I know that neither one of us has played the two most critically acclaimed games of the year in Baldur's Gate 3 and Alan Wake 2. Well, I should say two of the most critically acclaimed because Tears of the Kingdom scored really, really high too. I know that we're not going to finalize our picks until we come back with Xbox Casuals in January, and we'll reveal our top 10s on this show too. But right now, with a couple of weeks left to go in the year, Corey, I had a couple of categories wanted to talk to you about. Yeah, I had a couple categories. The first category I want to get to is I'm dubbing it the inaugural Redfall in Memoriam More Time in the Oven Award.
Oh, gosh.
What game needed more time in the oven? Now, I don't intend for something like the King Kong game to win this.
No, I know.
Because when we say more time in the oven, that means that the game had actual promise and like did some things right. Mm-hmm. It just needed like more polish, or it needed, more features. It needed like another year to go. Redfall.
A year? I don't think a year was going to fix that game.
Well, better than it was. What would be your pick for the Redfall in Memoriam More Time in the Oven Award?
All right, I'm going to say something about a game that I actually really loved this year, and it's actually probably going to end up in my top 5 games of the year. But Josh, when Star Wars Jedi Survivor launched,
I had a feeling this was going to be your pick.
Yeah. It was a little janky, I'll say, to be nice. Even after a couple patches, man, like it was funny because that big patch that literally fixed every issue I had with the game launched like 2 weeks after I finished it.
Yeah.
But that game, as much as I loved it, it was it hard crashed on me when it launched like 3 times, and I had to wait to play it.
See, it's funny. I never had those kinds of crashes. I had those crashes in Spider-Man 2.
Yeah. See, I didn't have any issues in Spider-Man 2 whatsoever.
And nobody else that I talked to had those issues. We think it's just my PS5.
Well, those PS5s, man, like there are just random components in half those consoles, especially if you bought it closer to launch. Like I've heard there are consoles that straight up just don't play Returnal. Like they just straight up don't play it.
We've all heard my griping about how I bought a PS5 a couple months after launch, and my controller got stick drift within 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
I finished the final fight in Ghost of Tsushima with insane stick drift. That is really hard to do, by the way. But I did it, and then I put my PS5 down for like a full year until I was sent a controller by a friend who took pity on me. I would say for this one, I really want to give it to Redfall. I really do think it deserves to go to Redfall.
I thought this was going to be a game outside of Redfall.
It should be, and that's why I say I want to, but I think Redfall is just such low hanging fruit at this point. It's funny because we got so many more hopelessly broken and bad games throughout the year that I think folks have kind of forgotten it came out.
Yeah.
In reality, this should be the CD Projekt Red Cyberpunk 2077 inaugural launch in Memoriam Award is really what this should be. The Xbox One edition.
Yeah.
I would probably give this to either Jedi Survivor at launch. Despite it will probably end up in my top 4 of the year, and it was real janky. Specifically, having to play through that game in 30 frames was really jarring.
Mm-hmm.
I would actually say that my pick is going to go to Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 on this one. Just look at how horrendous the development timeline is for that game, and tell me how you expected a quality product to come out.
Right.
Again, this should have been an expansion, not a full release. The fact they charged $70 for this is a criminal act. It was one last fuck you to gamers from Bobby Kotick.
Man, I can't wait for January 1st just for the sole fact that
dude, we're going to be doing going to be doing Game of the Year, and I'm going to do shots on camera because Bobby Kotick is out at Activision. I'm literally first Xbox Casuals of the year. I'm going to be doing shots. I'll like wear a festive hat or something. I don't know. Like I'm going to bring a Vesuvala with me.
Oh, jeez.
But
you can bring that flute from Flute Guy from
oh
the game.
My god! In all seriousness, though, Modern Warfare 3 should never have been released in the situation it was. Sledgehammer should not have been put through what they've been put through for the last several years. It's a real shame to see how they've been mistreated under the old regime, and I really hope that improves under Microsoft. I would love for Microsoft just to tell them you don't have to work on Call of Duty ever again, given what you've been put through for the last 3 years. Yeah. Or last 3 games.
Well,
they've done like 3 games in 4.5 years or something.
Right. Well, hopefully they'll get on some sort of, development cycle where Call of Duty can at least be every other year between 2 studios, and Sledgehammer can do what they want. And then on the off years, you either put out Call of Duty map packs or expansion or whatever zombies maps.
Just do map packs. Yeah.
Well, or like get on a development cycle where like Halo can somehow become relevant and fill one, every 4 years or so.
Well, I suspect that like Halo and Gears will fill those off years.
Yeah.
That would be my pitch if I was running Microsoft.
Or Perfect Dark,
Best narrative of the year. What was your favorite story of the year, Corey?
Oh man, Jedi Survivor might win that category too.
I have a very late contender running into this category. I started Sea of Stars last night. And
I would finish the game before you put that up for nomination.
Nope. Sea of Stars. Listen, Garl alone is carrying hard right here.
How far are you in the game?
About 6 hours.
Okay. Well,
this game is making a strong. It's making a very strong push into my top 10. It's closing in on top 5 status right now.
Yeah.
I'm really in love with it. I didn't expect to like it at all. I would say that right now, I mean, my top 2 probably are Final Fantasy 16 and Jedi Survivor. I gotta give the slight edge to Survivor. 16 really falls apart for me as you get close to the end.
Yeah, you got to play that DLC, Josh. It'll fix everything.
No, it won't. I have it on good authority. The DLC does not fix anything, which is a bummer.
Yeah,
I would say I had one other one I was thinking of, and it's not Tears of the Kingdom.
No,
it's not Starfield. I mean, Phantom Liberty. Phantom Liberty is pretty high on that list for me.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta. I mean, I know CD Projekt Red messed up real bad when they released that game, but you got to give it to them for sticking with it.
You really do. Like, when we joke, I joke about how like the In Memoriam game should be named after them, but like in all reality, I think that's truly one of the great redemption stories in gaming. Like that's a game they had already sold 15 million copies of before it even came out. They had no obligation to go and do everything that they did.
Yeah.
And instead, I mean, 2.0 feels like a brand new game. So it shouldn't have taken 3 years to get to this point, and I think that's just completely unacceptable. Hate that they're only doing 1 DLC instead of 2, but it's a damn good DLC.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I think it's got to be Jedi Survivor. I haven't finished Final Fantasy 16 yet. That's one of the games on my list to finish over the break.
Okay.
I also haven't played Cyberpunk, but I hear amazing things about that DLC.
Cyberpunk, if I had a gun to my head and had to pick a game of the year today, it's Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think it's not particularly close for me either.
Yeah. I'm going to say Jedi Survivor for me. I love those characters, and I just, man, this is the best Star Wars thing they've put out in a long time, in my opinion.
What's your favorite performance of the year?
Man, Favorite performance from like an act, like the actor,
Yeah,
or I mean,
what's your favorite performance in a video game? I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go ahead and answer this one for me.
okay.
I'm going Cameron Monaghan from Jedi Survivor.
Yeah, I mean that's a close one. I really also like the guy that plays Clyde in Final Fantasy, though.
Ben Starr is a national treasure. Protect
Yeah.
him at all costs.
Yeah.
He's fucking great. The best meme out of the Game Awards is it's a tie between his face with the light on him
Mhm.
or Sam Lake dancing. Those are the two best reactions from the Game Awards, I think.
Yeah.
I understand why Neil Newbon won this. Everybody I talked to who's played Baldur's Gate 3 is like, yeah, it's Neil.
Yeah.
But I'll ride or die for Cameron here.
I will. I also want to shout out Matt Mercer. Did a great job as Ganondorf. Or
Matt Mercer does good in everything.
As much as I hate, I every time I hear the meme of Daddy Dorf, I want to vomit in my mouth because it pisses me off so bad. He did do a great job of making Ganon feel imposing and scary, and I mean, obviously that helps with the.
You
animations.
mean this Daddy Dorf?
Oh my god, I fucking hate you. But he was a great Ganon. So he's also the villain in that new VR game that came out, the Wrath of Asgard 2, and apparently it's the best VR game ever made, according to IGN.
Well, I'm gonna reserve judgment on that because Half-Life Alyx is pretty goddamn good.
Yeah. Ryan McCaffrey reviewed that game. Shout out to Ryan McCaffrey, who's
the Asgard's Wrath.
Yeah.
No, that's Travis. That's Tie Guy Travis from the Last Word podcast.
Oh, I only watched the video and it was voiced by Ryan. So
yeah, Ryan does the voiceovers. No, Travis wrote it. He was shocked. He says it's the first 10 out of 10 he's ever given at IGN, and it came in with 15 days to go in the year. So
that's only on MetaQuest, right?
Yep, he says it's the killer app for the MetaQuest, which I've been toying with the idea of getting a MetaQuest sometime next year, and this kind of solidifies that I'm going to.
Yeah.
Very stoked about that.
Good. I'm glad VR got a game that people actually want to play. Besides Half-Life Alyx,
which is on a completely different headset.
Yeah.
What is your what was your favorite world to explore this year?
Oh, that one's easy for me. Hogwarts Legacy, man.
Really?
Yeah, dude. I fucking love that game so much. It's I love exploring that world, man. It was great. I
think I got two here. I'm gonna say that I loved both the primary planet that you go to in Jedi Survivor. I don't really remember the name of it. I know it's like really linear all over the place, but the fact they did so much with one planet was really cool.
Like the main kind of base planet.
Yeah. Definitely not Jeddah. Jeddah is in the other direction. Jeddah fucking sucks.
Yeah, half it's just like a desert.
Yeah, I think that the main planet Kobo is that what it is?
Yeah.
Kobo. It's really cool. I really enjoy that. I like how there's all sorts of different biomes there. I specifically love soaring through the air when you're climbing the old Trade Federation ships and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
When you have to basically go Metal Gear Solid into one of those ships too.
Oh yeah. Can I shout out Jedi Survivor also for I think it's the cleanest job any of Star Wars fiction has ever done, merging the prequels and the original trilogy in like a cohesive way. You know, like I especially like even Fallen Order, like when this game opens up and you are scrapping the clone ships while the TIE fighters are flying over, was like, I don't know, I just feel like they've done the cleanest job of merging those two trilogies out of anything.
It's been really cool. I think I really love all the nods to the High Republic stuff that they did too.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was really interesting how they wove that in.
Yeah.
What was give me a couple of your favorite moments of the year in terms of games? Like, what were some of the like moments that made your jaw drop? I think I got one that's on both of our lists.
I think
if I can kick off with it.
You kick it off, Josh.
I'm going to try to be as vague as possible, just because I don't want to ruin this moment for anybody. The sword pull in Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah, I actually had 2 from Tears of the Kingdom.
I have 2 from Tears of the Kingdom as well. That is, in my opinion, not only the best moment of that game and possibly of the year. It might be the best moment in the entire franchise.
That reveal too was pretty cool. Even
That
though I kind of
reveal,
felt it was coming.
it fucked me up. I cried. I put my Switch down and walked away. I saw it coming too, and I was not ready for it when I got there.
You saw it coming, but you didn't know how it was going to play out.
I got there extremely early in the game too.
Yeah.
I pulled the sword before I even got to the second temple. Because once I figured out that finding each tier gave you a cutscene, I decided I was going to go find every single tier. So I was exploring Hyrule with like 4 hearts.
Yeah. Wow.
What was your other one from that game?
I actually really liked the final, the final battle, but the scene that happens after the final battle when you.
I've heard about the scene that happens after the final battle. Yeah.
So that's it was just like a nice. Especially now
I could make a top 5 just from this game, I feel.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and it means a lot more now that we know that the Breath of the Wild kind of setting is over.
I think it's a really now I feel like I can just go play this. I think that kind of puts the nail in like a DLC discussion also.
They already said there's no DLC.
Well, I mean, I've heard that before from people, so
yeah.
Well, we all know Nintendo doesn't like to do DLCs, though.
Yeah, and the fact that like they've already explored this world 3 times now, like
yeah,
you know,
I mean that's part of why I couldn't even get through. I couldn't finish Tears of the Kingdom. I think that one of my other moments from that game is the first time you go into the Underdark and you realize, oh, it's not just this one area. There's an entire other map down here.
Yeah.
That is where the game got to be too overwhelming for me.
Yeah.
But the fact that there's entire plot lines down there is wild to me.
Yeah.
It is an exceptionally well made game, but I think you hit the nail on the head. This is my 3rd time exploring this world. I'm tired of it. I couldn't finish it.
Yeah.
Despite
did you play Age of Calamity? Or are you talking about the DLC for Breath of the Wild?
A bit of both.
Yeah.
Bit of both. I never finished either, but I'm counting them as one whole.
Yeah.
I'm tired of this world. I'm tired of this part of the timeline. Take me back to a more traditional Zelda. I'm not saying you gotta go all the way back to like Ocarina of Time style, but like, I don't know. Give me like a 3D Beyond Two Worlds or something. I don't know.
I really, I think that was the thing that really not killed my love for this game, because I actually really love Tears of the Kingdom also, but like I spent 230 hours in Breath of the Wild and another 30 in Age of Calamity, and coming back here for a 3rd time. Like it just like I've done all this before. It felt like
playing Tears of the Kingdom solidified for me that Breath of the Wild's the best game of all time.
Yeah.
Because I think that like when we talk about things like that, we think of where we were like in life and like what was going on at that time, and like, you know, I do recognize that Tears of the Kingdom does a lot of things better than Breath of the Wild, but it's also like it's overwhelming. I hate fucking building things in this game.
That's also what killed it for me. I was like, I don't want to go collect resources to build this vehicle to go do this thing, because
I'm done. I'm done. I did enjoy everybody's YouTube creations that I am clearly not talented enough to make. I would say that another one of mine is seeing somebody build like a fucking AC 130 and playing Credence over it.
Yeah.
A fucking Fortunate Son is kicking in while Link is carpet bombing Hyrule.
Yeah.
That was very funny to me. I don't think I laughed harder at a video game clip this year than seeing that show up on my Instagram feed.
Yeah.
Getting away from Zelda, I did have a couple of others. The assault on the lodge in Starfield is a truly great plot twist that I didn't see coming.
Yeah.
When you have to choose between your companions, and it's the 2 that you've spent the most time with. We come to find out eventually, like people found out afterwards, it's the 2 that you've spent the most time with that you have to choose. That was kind of a gut-wrenching choice, even though like the companions are really lackluster. It's still like, oh my god, like there's actually stakes to this game. And then I would say the first time you load into New Game Plus.
Yeah.
And you go to the lodge. Those are those might be like two of my best moments of the year. Not might be, they absolutely are two of my best.
Yeah.
That moment in Oscorp Tower in Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
That was really, really cool.
Yeah.
I really loved that moment. Any of the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man missions are up there.
Yeah.
I
gotta say, I really liked Harry's story in that game. Even though, like, for me, the story overall was pretty lackluster, in my opinion. I really liked Harry's arch. And I would really like to see more of that character specifically. Specifically the first time Harry uses the suit or the one power.
the Spider Pals.
Yeah. I want more of that. I just want DLC based on the Spider Pals.
Yeah.
So
I think it's just it's so good.
Yeah. It's very
and then I guess my final non-game of the year question for you is what's the best indie game that you played this year?
This might be a surprise to you, Josh, but actually I really loved Ravenlock from Coco Cucumber.
I'm genuinely shocked.
I really enjoyed that game. I loved it. Is it the best game I've ever played? Not by a long shot, but I don't know. There's this like weird little artistic Zelda-y game inspired by Alice in Wonderland, and the quote unquote dungeons were like fun even though they were small. And I mean, I got all the achievements in 6 hours, and it was just a nice, fun little experience. So shout out to Ravenlock on Game Pass.
So I'm still working through my indies. Obviously, you guys heard me say that Sea of Stars is making a very strong last-minute push to try and take this away. Right as of right now, if I had to decide today, it's Cocoon.
Yeah, I haven't played Cocoon yet. That's a
I've
game
got
on my list.
Cocoon and Jasant are my 1 and 2 right now. Sea of Stars is about to knock Jasant off, though. I'm really loving Sea of Stars. Also, it's not an indie, but it is a smaller budget game, and we didn't talk like best surprise of the year, but this would absolutely win it for me. Hi-Fi Rush.
Yeah, I was gonna
shout out to Hi-Fi Rush.
Yeah, I was gonna mention it in the last category where like it just was like not really a moment, but
phenomenal.
just like turning it on and realizing how great the game is within the first 20 minutes of playing it, right? And how innovative and smart and artistic it was. It was awesome.
Yeah, it's so creative, it's so good, and I love that it came from a horror studio.
Yeah.
That does not want to be known as a horror studio anymore, according to Shinji Mikami.
Yeah.
Really, really happy for that. You know what? I think we're actually going to end it there. If you guys want to hear our Game of the Year picks, Xbox Casuals and Tower Casuals, both of those, first episode of next year, when we come back from the break, we will we'll bring our top 10s to the table.
Yeah.
I might think of some other categories to put Corey on the spot for. I do have one more. I do have one more for you before we get out of here.
All right.
What's the best game from your backlog that you played? A game that did not come out in 2023.
Oh man, I actually have a couple that I finished this year.
Give me two. Give me 2 or 3.
Let me hold on. Let me pull up my list here. I have a list, Josh. I have a list of backlog games. Where's my notepad? There it is. Okay, where's it at? Video games list. Okay. So I played this game on Game Pass called Beacon Pines. That was really good.
Yeah.
It actually wasn't intended to be a backlog game, but it was it's like this little cartoony adventure game, choose your own adventure game, and it's really fun. And that was really great. But my favorite backlog game, Josh, was Miles Morales, because I played Spider-Man 1, Miles and 2 back to back.
It's disgustingly good.
Josh, I know you know this because you are Mr. I know everything about everything. But Miles Morales, kick-ass character. I don't.
Pretty great character.
I really don't know. Before playing these games, I really didn't know anything about Miles Morales except that he was the Spider-Man in the black suit.
Yeah.
A different black suit. But dude, his story is so interesting, and like I was comparing it to like, okay, we've been listening to this, a similar Peter Parker story for what 90 years now, 80 years now. That like, yeah, that story feels pretty old, but man, Miles Morales' story and his backstory and the story in this game, and obviously the story in Miles Morales and 2 specifically for him are. I was so into Miles. I want more Miles. I want more Miles, man.
Yeah.
So
I think you're going to get your wish.
yeah.
My backlog pick of the year. It is and is not a backlog pick because it did not come to modern consoles until this year. But it is a game originally released in 2008, re-released in 2012 for the ill-fated PlayStation Vita. It was the best game on the Vita by far. Persona 4 Golden.
Ooh.
You guys have heard me talk about Persona a lot over the last year or so. I played Persona 5 Royale last fall and immediately fell in love with it. It became a top 5 game of all time for me. I said to a friend earlier this year that, in fact, I said it to him after beating Phantom Liberty. Phantom Liberty may be my game of the year for right now, but I guarantee you that if I could choose Persona 4 would be the best game I played all year.
Mm-hmm.
It's that good. It's that engaging. The cast of characters is incredible. The investigation team is so lovable. And in like such contrast to the Phantom Thieves from Persona 5, who also, are very lovable characters, but
yeah,
like just the writers of these games have such a way, and like you still feel like an 85-hour game is not enough time with them.
Yeah.
You still feel like you got to spend more time. Like 1 year of in-game time is not nearly enough with these characters.
Mm-hmm.
You feel like, okay, I gotta maximize my time. I gotta spend more time with them.
Yeah.
And I don't want them to go and this and that. And that's the gift that Royale and Golden both give you, is they both give you the third semester, which you don't get in a traditional Persona game right away. You only play through the end of the actual calendar year, and then it skips to the end of the school year once you hit New Year's.
Yeah.
Royale and Golden, though, man.
Do you play those on Xbox or on Switch?
I played them on Xbox. I played them, hashtag Xbox Game Pass, guys. They are two of the only games that I've played through the service that I liked so much that I went out and bought a physical copy of them. I bought the Steelbook version of Royale last year. It sits proudly up on top of my desk next to my Joker amiibo that I've had for years. And then I ordered Persona 4 Golden for Xbox through Limited Run last week.
Nice.
So, if you want to see games like that on your favorite platforms, buy them, support them. It shows the demand. Even if it's just playing on Game Pass, like it shows the demand for those games to come to the West, for them to come to traditional, like non-traditional Japanese platforms. God, go play. If you're looking for an extra long game to play and you've already played Baldur's Gate, or maybe you don't have the money to buy Baldur's Gate, but you have an Xbox Game Pass subscription, go play Persona 4 Golden. Persona 5 Royale is going to be on sale a lot.
Yeah,
play that. I can't wait for Reload. I'm looking forward to Reload more than almost any other game next year, because I tried to play Persona 3 and could not get into it. It was too PSP for me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a game that originally came out in 2003, so not ultra surprising there.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm really looking forward to Reload. I'm going straight from Reload to Final Fantasy VII Rebirth to Dragon's Dogma 2. That's how I'm spending my spring next year.
Yeah.
So I can't wait. These games are incredible. 5 again, you can play them without having played previous ones. I would recommend 5 if you've never played a Persona. Play 5. It's the best one. It's the longest one. It's the most in depth. It's the funnest one to me.
Mm-hmm.
But man, 4 was a pretty great game to play handheld. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
it still feels very much like a Vita game.
Yeah.
So
I also, before we end this conversation, I just want to shout out to Plague Tale Innocence. Really enjoyed that game this year, although I only played like one chapter a night, because it's not really a game that you should probably be playing for 4 or 5 hours at a time. It gets kind of, frustrating sometimes. But it was a delight. I see why people really like that game, the first one at
Yeah.
least. So
For sure.
yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and let's get to questions. We're gonna fly through questions pretty quickly here.
Questions.
Simply because we don't have that many, and because I have talked way too long. I took way too long on that topic. Gladius15 writes in and says, "Hey guys, if you could put in a new non-combat activity into the game other than Sparrow Racing League, what would it be?"
Oh man, you could do something like almost like with the orbs you could throw it to people and then try to play like almost like basketball or soccer or something.
Griffball 2.0.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, give me Griffball 2.0. I would love a mode where you're throwing the ball back and forth. I'd like for it to be like a hot potato mode though.
Yeah, where like if you don't pass it within like I don't know 5 seconds or 3 seconds or something, the bomb blows up and then the other team gets the ball
Yeah.
or something. Or at least you have to go.
Yeah,
race
I'd
to go get it.
like, but I guess that's like kind of combat. I don't know.
I wouldn't say it's combat. I'd
like a
say
true
taking
firing and like tune-up range also.
Yeah.
I'd love a mode where you could go test out any gun, where you could go to a firing range, test out any gun in the game with any of its currently available perk combinations to figure out which one you like the best and which one you feel you like the best, and like write it down as like a preferred role, or like save it as your preferred role or something. Like maybe the game could alert you then when you get your chosen role.
Yeah, that's a good idea actually.
I would like that. That would be kind of like an evolution of what the Destiny 1 Gunsmith Day was like. I'd really like to see a return to that. Jiggly Panda writes in, this is a 3-part question.
Ooh.
With all the negatives that have happened in 2023, what is one good thing that has happened to you in real life, in Destiny, and in the video game community as a whole?
Oh,
so,
man.
Corey, hit me with your real life choice.
Oh, I mean, we bought a house, so that was pretty positive.
Corey bought a house.
It's like, oh my gosh, Josh, I cannot wait to fucking move in and set up my office, and I'm gonna have like a real office, Josh. It's not just gonna be some random room that I share with 3 other people.
Right. Man, this is actually a really hard question for me because I didn't have a really great year. It's been actually a really, really shitty year for me. I'd say on a serious note, like continuing to go to my therapy appointments and continue to get help has been a pretty big thing for me this year. That is a good thing. If I hadn't done that, I'd be in a really dark place right now with everything that's happened. It's really helped keep me grounded and keep me kind of on the straight and narrow. I was having a lot of problems back at the end of March, throughout April and May. I tried to hide it on here as best I could, but I was in a really dark place. Yeah, if I hadn't been going to therapy like I was, then it's I don't want to dwell on like what would have happened. So I'll make that my good thing. Good thing in Destiny that happened, Corey.
Oh man, good thing in Destiny. I mean, man, does it have to be about the game itself? I got a lot of cool Destiny merchandise this year.
Corey spent a lot of money this year. That's his cool thing that happened.
I got the Numbskull Shacks. I got Varix, which is my favorite character in Destiny. Yeah. Just ironically, I guess. I forgot to tell you, Josh. I got my Grimoire book.
I did too.
Sabathuna's on her way. I got the Final Shape T-shirt and the collector's edition. So those are all positive Destiny things.
I got my first ever day 1 raid completion this year. I got my first ever contest clear, so that's definitely my pick. That was a really cool moment. That was a really special moment to get that one done. And then what's something positive to happen in the video game community as a whole, Corey? I know this one's a little bit hard to answer too.
Actually, you know what? I want to go back to the last question real quick. It revolves around a sad situation, but when Lance Reddick died, the way that the community rallied, and it was really cool to see community really come together for that moment and really share their respect for Lance and what he did for Zavala and Destiny as a whole, and video games as a whole, right? I mean, not just Destiny, but Horizon and Quantum Break and
Yeah.
probably a few others that I can't think of off the top of my head. But Lance Reddick was an icon in the Destiny space, and the way the community rallied and kind of showed their respects to him in the tower, and that was a really great moment surrounding a sad situation.
Yeah,
So,
I would definitely agree with that. In terms of the gaming community, I think the whole story around Baldur's Gate 3 has been incredible this year. I would never have picked a CRPG to win Game of the Year in 2023.
I don't know if I would have picked a Larian game at all to be so popular and so positive, right? I mean,
yeah, I think the commercial success is pretty surprising. I don't think the critical acclaim is hard at all, though. Divinity Original Sin 2 is one of the greatest RPGs of all time. But I think it's amazing that a D&D video game, a game that is very hardcore 5e D&D, is Game of the Year. And that a CRPG has like resonated on a pop culture level that's kind of crazy. Like, yeah, Spider-Man 2 really crossed those boundaries, but man, for Baldur's Gate to be as popular as it's been and be in as many non-gamer conversations that I've heard it brought up is pretty wild. I think coming into this year, a few of us thought, man, Baldur's Gate 3 is going to make a lot of waves. Don't sleep on it, because, we've been watching it in early access for 3 years now. And, coming into this year, I think most of us had Tears of the Kingdom pegged as Game of the Year. Like, and especially after we all played it in May, I think it was like, man, how do you top this? And then Larian just kind of chuckled to themselves, and 60 days later dropped, what's one of the greatest games of all time.
Yeah.
And that's not hyperbolic at all to say that, like, this very well might be the best RPG of all time.
Yeah. Let me tell you a little Baldur's Gate 3 story here, Josh.
Hit me, Corey. Hit me with your Baldur's Gate 3 story.
Someone that I work with, he's older, like, maybe a decade or more older than us, right? And he grew up playing Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, and he kind of fell off games, as he got older. Like, he still plays a couple, but, he's not into it like us, right? He, a couple weeks ago, maybe like a month ago or so, he's like, hey, you know anything about this new Baldur's Gate game? I haven't played that since, like, the 2000s, or like I'm like, yeah, it's up for Game of the Year for the video game awards this year. I hear it's pretty good. He's like, huh, I used to love Baldur's Gate. I think I'm going to give it a try. And he like ended up buying a PlayStation to play it. So I thought that was kind of, like, to bring up, people that aren't really into games are talking about Baldur's Gate in a way that nobody really thought to. Like, that's kind of cool.
Hit me. What's your gaming moment of the year? Is that it?
I mean, it's a pretty close one. I don't know. I feel like the community as a whole has been pretty positive, especially around like all these layoffs and people calling for action to be taken and smarter decisions to be made, and put the right people in the right spots to make sure this stuff doesn't happen again. Because as great as it was for game releases, man, like 10,000 people in the game industry got laid off this year, and it was it was rough to watch. Really,
it's hard. It's hard,
and I know it's like a rough year, and especially in the tech space in general, right? Because like where I work, like we saw a lot of layoffs in that space too this year. But like, man, some of these decisions just feel dumb. Like we thought that this high was going to last, and it didn't. Right, the COVID high where Bungie was planning all these things, or Epic was expanding and opening the store, and money was almost free to borrow from the banks, and now you got to pay it all back and somehow pay your employees, and they're not making as much money because people are getting laid off, and it's like, man. Right. But I want to say, like, the way the gaming community can be rough a lot of the time, but I think in this instance it was pretty obvious that people are pulling for the developers and not the executives, and that was really a good thing to see, I think. So.
Our final question from Jiggly Panda is, because I love hearing the sandwich talks, if you could turn any exotic into a sandwich, what would it be? The dragon's breath.
That would be something spicy, I feel.
I'm going to do the dragon's breath. It's going to be a Nashville hot chicken sandwich. It's going to have extra pickles. It's going to have a little bit of slaw on it. I'm going to put, as much as I don't care for it, I'm going to put some of that spicy brown mustard on there also.
Ooh.
So it's going to be, and no, I'm not going to put spicy brown mustard on there. I'm going to put some hot sauce on there. I'm going to put some buffalo sauce on there on top of this. This thing is going to be 3 alarm rated to give you heartburn. I will never eat this sandwich. I value my insides. I value my bowels more. I will not be eating this. But the dragon's breath would be my pick.
That's interesting.
Yes, I've been thinking about this for 2 days.
Let me share a little bit of a Gallarhorn sandwich here, Josh.
Hit me.
Are you ready for this? Not only is it one massive sandwich, Josh, in the middle, but there's also a bunch of the same mini sandwiches on King's Hawaiian rolls, Josh, that surround it to account for the wolf head rounds. Okay, it's going to be delicious. You put a little bit of some seasoned chicken on there, some saucy chicken on there. You put a little bit of bacon, 3 different types of cheeses on there, Josh. You got your provolone, you got your mozzarella,
okay.
You got your cheddar. Maybe do it up with a little bit of slaw, like a little bit of a slaw on there, some bacon, and then the little sliders, man. You got the little sliders wrapped around the giant sandwich in the middle. You know, for a party treat.
Interesting. For a party treat. Unbelievable.
Josh, speaking of sandwiches, I'm going to be in Disney in 6 weeks. 6 weeks. Better believe it. Dude, I have a $100 Earl sandwich gift card waiting for me.
God, I hate you so much.
No, you don't. You love it.
I do not.
I can send you one if you want.
Because
it might be moldy by the time it gets to you.
I would love for somebody to send me a Hawaiian barbecue. Oh, wait, they don't make it anymore. Tiger Jesus writes in with our final question tonight. Would you rather have 6 new dungeons, no raids, or 3 new raids, no dungeons?
Honestly,
I'm going to go with... Go ahead, Corey. I'll let you answer.
I was going to say, honestly, I think I would pick 6 dungeons over 3 raids.
Yep. That's my way of thinking. First, you're getting more content. You're getting more accessible content on top of that. It is easier to get 3 people together for a dungeon than it is to get 6 together for a raid, in my experience.
Yeah. And I feel like there's way more hits than misses in the dungeon area.
Yeah, if we could just get the loot to be more consistent.
Yeah. Yeah. You mean you don't like the Haka armor set from?
I do not like the Haka armor set. I do think that generally the raid loot is pretty good. My thing is, we've already seen what it's like to get 3 raids in a year. This is how you end up with Crown of Sorrow as one of your raids. Mm-hmm. So I'm deliberately staying away from that. Give me 6 dungeons, because I think dungeons are a good capstone to a lot of the minor storylines that we get.
Yeah.
Raids, I think, are those big pinnacle moments of the franchise.
Yeah.
Or should be. I mean, you take down Oryx, you're taking down Oryx, you're taking down Riven, you're taking out, you're fighting Rolk, you're fighting Nezarec. These are pinnacle moments in the series. You're fighting Taniks for the 5th time.
Yeah.
These are pinnacle moments that we're doing. And I don't know. I feel like that's just how it should be. I feel like those should be those pinnacle activities, those pinnacle moments. I think that dungeons should be a step down. I think dungeons work great to explore a setting we wouldn't want to make an entire world around. Warlord's Ruin, I think, is really awesome because it's basically a D&D adventure in Destiny.
Yeah.
I think the duality is really cool because we're going inside Callus's mind.
Yeah.
We're fighting his version of Keitel and of Galran and things like that. I think all these elements are really cool. So I would take 6 dungeons. Also, if it was spread out over a year, you're getting a dungeon like every 2 months. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean that would keep people in the game for sure.
It would certainly keep people in the game,
especially if they're good and the loot pool's good and you could grind for it.
Well, a little dubious on the loophole being good. Corey, let's head to the lore corner.
I said good, not great.
Let's head to the lore corner for our final piece of the year. Nothing too big brained here. I don't have any Dawning lore to share with anybody this year. At least not yet. We might have some when we get back. I haven't unlocked anything, so and nothing's in the API, so I'll have to take a look. This is for the Chivalric Fire, the Void Caster Sword you can earn this season. It should be elegant, says Zavala, striking his breastplate with a fist. The sound echoed throughout the room. The Vanguard's representatives are as suited to diplomacy as they are combat. That is our strength when our allies range from an Ahamkara to the Cabal. Shax's firm gesture of denial drives the side of his hand into a shelf. An Amalon-branded canister falls off and rolls across the floor. It must be an unstoppable force in sword form. It should spit fire. Also, it should be red. No, the drifter says from the doorway. He kicks the rolling canister away without looking down. I'm a law-abiding citizen. I pay my taxes. Taxes and W-2s apparently exist in the tower. You can trust me. It needs to look mean. You want people thinking they're madder, badder, and hungrier than me. I'm not tangling with them. Banshee 44 dubiously scratches his jaw with the point of his stylus. He glances up at his clients from his notepad. That's a lot of elements for one design. Can you cut a couple? The workshop erupts in impassioned shouts. I love the idea that this is what the three of them are arguing over the most, is the design of a fucking sword that they're all gonna scam us with from the vendors. I love it so much. I like that. Like, this also kind of explains like the rationale for ornaments in universe. Also, it's kind of great to me. I'm really enjoying it. I want more interactions like this, and I wish we got some like this on screen. But sadly, it feels like we're not going to. I'm always going to read this in Lance Reddick's voice.
Mm-hmm. That's a side tangent. We're probably going to hear Keith David sooner than later too, right?
I would imagine Keith David probably we hear from in either Wishes or Into the Light to like acclimate us to his voice.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I love things like this. I like seeing Drifter interact with like the main leaders, because normally it's like, oh, he's talking with Eris. Occasionally he'll be in a room with Ikora, maybe, but it's always like Eris or Elsie or like us. He doesn't usually hang out with Zavala and Shax. So I love the idea of like, Vanguard and Crucible and then fucking Gambit. He's just reminding you that Gambit is still in the game. I personally love the mental image of him reminding everybody like once a year that, hey, Gambit still exists,
Yeah.
The Transmats are still firing. So, that's it. I mean,
everybody's had their fair share of moat dumping.
Everyone's had their fair share of moat dumping, indeed. That's all I've got. That's it. Nothing big brained here.
Maybe that should be the title of the episode.
I think we're good.
Moat dumping.
Moat dumping. Yeah, let's get on out of here.
All right, Josh. I want to thank everybody for watching and or listening to this episode of Tower Casuals. Remember, we are off for 3 weeks, right?
3 weeks? Something like that. Yeah. So the Twabs are not going to return until the 16th, I think they said.
Yeah. So and we're not recording on the 1st because holiday, so we'll be back on the 8th to record an episode for the 9th, I guess, or
for Xbox Casuals.
Wait,
and
hold
then
on. I did my math wrong.
You've got your math wrong.
Yeah,
we will not. I mean, we should just go ahead and take that week off. Honestly,
I guess it would be the 4th. I guess.
No, I was going to say take that week off.
Yeah, no, I'm saying like that would be the week we would take off. Would be the 4th.
Yes, we'll be back with Xbox Casuals the morning of Tuesday, January the 9th, and Friday, January the 12th for Tower Casuals.
Yes, thank you, Josh.
We'll have Game of the Year conversations on those episodes, respectfully. I would honestly say strap in, guys. We're going to kind of be flying through this season by the seat of our pants.
Flying, I would say, like riding on the back of a tortoise that's 800 years old.
I mean, we don't. It's hard to have a plan when we don't know what the content is going to look like
Yeah.
yet. We were really expecting to be coming in and like hitting the ground running. You know, oh my god, we've only got like 6 weeks to the final shape, and be sharing final theories and stuff. We'll have story content to carry us through most of February, most of January and February, and then it's going to be kind of a challenge. We may talk some RPGs in the next couple of months, just so you guys know, like fair warning.
Mhm.
Don't really want to take episodes off if we don't have to.
Yeah.
And we will be once we come back, we'll be a couple months off from episode 200.
Oh man, we're about
Episode
20.
200 is currently projected to be in May.
Yeah.
I think when I was doing the math, it'll hit exactly 1 week before the final shape.
Oh, I guess we should probably take a week off in between there or something.
Oh my god, no! I don't even want to think about trying to do episode 200 and the final shape review in the same episode.
Yeah, no.
Oh god. Regarding some stuff over break, I will probably record a really quick episode next Tuesday evening. By myself, I won't take any questions. I want to talk about that exotic mission before it's been sitting for a month.
All right.
So I will probably record that and put it up myself. Quick little 20-minute conversation. Talk about the exotic a little on our Tuesday or Wednesday next week. Y'all can look for that. It won't be anything super long or involved, but do that before I get wrapped up in family Christmas and go out of town. Of course, I'm going to be doing Game of the Year stream on Wednesday the 27th. On a friend's channel. I'll tweet out a link or post a link, whatever, when we do that. 28th, I'll be doing Beermas. That'll be fun. We'll be drinking various beers for about 12 hours straight. That ought to be interesting as well. And then, Corey and I'll be back the second full week of January.
We will be back.
We will be back. So, yeah, everybody... I hope that you have enjoyed this year as much as we have. I know it's been a real up and down year for the game and for the community, but I'm really happy and proud of the community that we have here.
Mm-hmm.
We've had some guys step it up in a really big way to help out this year. Of course, we wouldn't have the Discord community without Nerd. He has done so much getting the Discord running for us and really managing it because Corey and I are Discord illiterate. Ronnie and Saint have really stepped up these last couple weeks. They just did some emblem giveaways. Nerd is doing his cookie contest through New Year's Day. We'll be voting after that on your best interpretation of Christmas cookies or of the cookies in the game. I said that if I do not see Grandma or Mima's name in the recipe name, I am throwing them out. So I expect to see that from you guys. And when we get back from the break, Nerd has set up a really cool little tournament that we've already started assembling teams for in the Discord. We're going to do a dungeon crawl. He has set up some specific rules for said crawl. We're going to start promoting that when we get back from the break. But if you want more details, you can head on over to the Discord, head on over to event sign up and see exactly what's going on there. I know we've got some Vex Mythoclast Catalyst runs that we're going to do during the break. I imagine we're going to get a lot of Crota and Warlord's Ruins runs in for folks as well. Maybe some farming runs. We've got a lot of time. Like we're all just kind of chilling for the next few weeks. So come on by, jump in, find a game. If you see one of us online, holler. And I got my last thank you of the year, of course, is to you, Corey, my beloved co-host.
Of course.
Thank you for another year of Destiny ups and downs.
Yeah.
To share together.
Yeah.
180 episodes together.
Yep.
Thereabouts.
Yep. That's it's a lot. It's a lot, Josh.
It is in fact a lot, my friend.
But Josh, I also, you know how much I appreciate you and how much you bring to the show. The show would not exist without you. You know, I mean, literally, and it'd probably just be like, one of those shows people try and then leave after 10 episodes because nobody really knows what they're talking about. But, I appreciate you and everything you bring to this show and Xbox Casuals too. And also the community makes us a whole lot better as well. everybody in the Discord and out there playing and doing the things. So, but that's it. That's a wrap. Join the Discord. I want to thank everybody for watching and or listening. Until next time, we love you. Goodbye.